Hello, everybody. Jose Rodriguez back again. Here's something that printer companies never tell you when you consider buying a printer of their particular brand, whatever. It doesn't really matter. They never tell you, you better print often. They don't want to tell you that because they want you to use a lot of ink. And how do you use a lot of ink? By not printing often. Ooh, how is that possible? Well, if I don't print often, then I'm not using ink to print with. How am I wasting ink? Cleaning cycles. That's how you are wasting ink. And it is just dollar signs. Okay. All that money going into your internal waste ink pads or your user replaceable cartridge if you have a printer that has one of those. I hope you do. It's a lot easier. So, how to prevent this loss? In other words, I would love to use my expensive ink in the production of photographs. Hey, why wouldn't I just want to produce photos like this? Check that out. Instead of a perch sheet. Yeah, this will keep your printer happy. Okay. And it's just like you were printing a photo. It uses a bit of ink, but it's really useless. I mean, what am I going to do with this? So, when you consider buying a printer, make sure you ask yourself, how much work am I going to put it through? You better be driving that car daily, at least 50 miles a day, in order to get the most out of that car. Yes, it's going to cost you fuel, but that's what the car is for. It's for driving. That's what the printer is for. These engineers spend a couple of years designing the next model, introducing all sorts of wonderful features, improving the color output, improving the print engine, improving everything for you to do what with it? Perch images? No, I don't think so. It's for printing photographs. So, you know, you can just say, well, I don't care. I have a lot of money. I can just, put up with the cleaning cycles that it has to perform. Every month I print something. Yeah, it's clogged. I'll just run a cleaning cycle or two. Well, you just used up maybe 10 times the amount of ink globally because it cleans all 8 or 10 or 6 or 12. It cleans them all at the same time. You're wasting ink galore simply by not printing something at least every other day, maybe even more often. So the moral here is that if you're not ready to utilize that super, super high end piece of equipment. Inkjet printers are amazing. The technology is out of this world. The way it actually produces images like that on paper by just laying down random dots of ink. Okay? Again, if you really think about it, it's just mind blowing. So don't get a printer such as a Pro 1000 that's going to demand, it's going to demand this from you. Before I allow you to print something, your precious image, I am going to make sure that I am operating at my highest possible condition or quality. So, therefore, I am going to, whether I need it or not, you haven't used me for 2 weeks, I'm going to run a very lengthy cleaning cycle. It's going to use up all 12 of my expensive fluids, okay, to make sure, to ensure that when I proceed then to print the image you sent to me is going to be as the designers of me, I'm the printer, expected me to produce. Well, 13 by 19 will use about 3 to 4 ml of total ink, but it's going to use up maybe 3 to 4 times that amount getting itself ready. Well, guess what? That print just cost you 4x what it would have normally cost you if you had printed something the night before and then the next morning you print that one image. You see what I mean? Because it will not run that pre-print, that insurance, that checkup to make sure that you're not going to get angry with me because I have a couple of nozzles clogged and you see banding and the print is ruined. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to spend about, you know, 10, 12 ml of ink, and then I will allow you to use up the next 4 ml of ink to produce that image on paper, and it will be perfect. Too bad you'll have to, just swallow the other 12 ml of ink I just wasted making sure. You see what I mean? So this is the way to approach this, especially with a Pro 1000, all of this family of printers for Canon, these high-end professional level printers. If you're not ready to use them as they are intended to be used, and again, let me tell you, they don't tell you this. They're not going to tell you this. They want you to be shocked, and at the end, you're going to either, oh, I can't afford to print anymore. My God, it's putting me in the poorhouse. Yeah, it is. Of course. It's wasting a lot more, many times more ink than it takes to produce that one single print. Can you imagine that? So again, print, here it goes. Here it goes. Get ready. Print daily. That's the way it is. Now, that doesn't mean it applies to all printers. You don't have to print daily with some other families of printers. Pro 100, it wasn't that bad. Yes, it ran a cleaning cycle if I didn't use it for a week or two, but it wasn't going to be something that will just put me in, bankruptcy. No, it's not that bad. It's the family of printers like a Pro 1000, the 2000, 2100, and the new ones that are coming out right now that are going to be even, more grandiose, if you will. They still demand that you have to allow them, the printers, to make sure they're okay, make sure they are clear, make sure this and that, everything is working just fine, or I will throw an error at you, and that's always going to cost you money anyway. So, just be aware of that. If you have a printer like the Pro 1000 and you don't have enough work for it, okay, well, run a nozzle check every day or run one of those purge units every day, but do the nozzle check every once in a while to make sure that, because it's a diagnostic tool, it will show you which channel is affected, if at all. But run your purge unit, QImage Ultimate, of course, or QImage 1 will allow you to do that. You can schedule it. You don't have to worry about it. Just make sure you have paper loaded. It will run one of those daily. Again, they're useless. You're not going to frame them. What are you going to do with those? But it keeps your printer happy. If you don't have enough work, I still say, please print something valuable on a daily basis. If you're not really ready to do so, don't get a Pro 1000. Get an 8550 from Epson. It's very forgiving, and it will allow you to just take breaks if you want to for a week, 2 weeks, and then just run an nozzle check. Yeah, maybe you have to do a cleaning cycle, and then it'll be fine, and then you print. Okay, so and does it print well? Well, the one I just showed you, that is indeed from the 8550, and it is simply amazing, amazing. So the ones that I am concerned about is Pro 1000s, that family of printers and up. You need to really be on, and I don't want to insult anybody, but most of those printers are basically aimed at the professional print producer, okay, person who is producing things for sale, producing things for a gallery, producing things on demand from other photographers. They provide them enough work to keep that printer happy as a lark, printing every day. That's what it wants to do. It wants to print pretty much constantly. At some point, your printhead will have to be replaced. That's the way these printers work. They use up that printhead, and those nozzles don't last forever. Okay, they do not. At some point, printhead error will pop up. You'll have to replace the printer. But again, that's just part of the cost of owning a printer of that caliber. Big floor format type printers from Canon, it's a routine process. Every couple of years, you replace both printheads, two of them, on some of those units. So yeah, just consider that. Again, don't. I know it's just hard to resist not to have or own a Pro 1000 because it's just such a amazing printer as far as the color output and the quality of the prints that it produces. But be aware that again, it requires a certain type of approach. Daily printing, you got to make sure you provide enough work for it to keep it happy. Printers need to print, they will stay healthier that way than simply being ignored or the fear of it costs too much to print, so I'm going to cut back. Well, that really doesn't work. It really does not work economically or any other way because eventually you will pay the piper, as they say, and you print something 2 months later and the cleaning cycle is horrendous. You see your ink levels actually drop, and then it could actually throw an error at you. Yeah, it could do that. Enough scare tactics here. Actually, no, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to help you. So keep that in mind. Pro 1000, make sure you're really ready for that. And again, if you are not, consider something like one of the EcoTank printers. They produce, even with just 6 inks, amazing results. Okay? Yes, they're not going to be fully comparable to something like a Pro 1000, but for most of us who are not really selling their work to customers that are willing to pay buku bucks, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. The inks are very, very low cost. The printer costs more than a printer that uses expensive inks. So proportionally, you will be spending a bit more money initially, but the running costs are going to be very low. All right, that is it for now. Again, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And of course, as always, happy printing. Bye bye, everyone.